All right, Steve Overmyer here alongside a sports handicapper you can find on Twitter as Old Man Who Bets, Jeff Sheesby. Now, in fantasy baseball, you're always wanting to make some moves to add guys. You want to get the guys that are hot. But you've got to get them not necessarily on waiver wire. You've got to get them sometimes through trades as well, right?
Absolutely. We want to buy low, we want to sell high, and we want to go after these guys that we think will be super impactful in the second half of the year.
So the key is to read into the metrics a little closer to see which players are the hottest players. And the guy that I want to target right off the bat is Lourdes Gurriel of Toronto. He is owned in 78% of the leagues, but that just means that you're going to have to make a trade to go and get this guy. What I like about him is his multiple eligibility. Number one, the fact that he's second base, shortstop, and outfield eligible means that even in roto leagues that you can bounce him around quite a bit. But look at that stat right there. Since May 24th, he has 15 homers, 106 total bases, which leads the majors in both categories. This since he was called back up from the minors. What's amazing about this guy, and why I think this is a perfect person to go out there and get, is because when you look at his rankings in fantasy baseball, his ranking is at 249, most likely because he's a home run hitter. He doesn't provide much apart from that. But over the past 30 days, his value, his real value, is fourth in the majors. I mean, this is a guy that if he's available on the waiver wire, you've got to go and get him. But how big of a player would you have to give up to go and add this guy on your roster right now?
I don't think you'd have to give up too much of a player. To your point, he got sent down on May 24th. He's a young player. He's not an established name by any means. And as we were sitting talking before this segment, I picked him up on my waiver wires. Thanks to you.
Hey, man, it's a good thing you picked him up before we aired this segment. Yeah. He would have been gone.
Absolutely. And even at 78%, that means he has been dropped because of these minor leagues, the minor league send down. You know, I think you could go after a guy like Rafael Devers or, give up a guy like that who's kind of the middle of the class, and you should get way more upside from Gurriel.
And that's about the level of player that you could offer to someone, and they would probably jump at that.
Exactly.
All right. Another guy that is hot, you like Joey Votto once again.
I like Joey Votto. He's old, reliable. He's certainly getting up there in age. And, he was a guy that I actually picked up on the waiver wire when somebody dropped him super early in the season. I think in May he bottomed out around 200 on his average. But since June 1st, he's been batting 299. He's been hitting 4 home runs. This guy gets on base, and he's playing for a Reds team that I think is very undervalued. So he's high in the order. He's going to get his at-bats. He's hitting pretty well. And I think because of his slump in the beginning of the season, he's a guy that you could get that I would consider very undervalued.
I just think the narrative on Votto was pretty clear that it feels like over the past couple of years he's had a bit of a drop-off, and a lot of people are expecting him to drop off even more. You say go the other way, go and grab this guy, so maybe you can target someone like him, and maybe you might be able to get him for cheap, more or less.
Yep.
I look at this other player that you like as another one of the hot players to go and pick up. What is your new infatuation here with the Reds?
The Reds, they're number 12 in run differential, even though they're bottom in the division. And I think people look at their record and say, hey, this is not a very good team, but I don't think that's the case. And their run differential, ironically, is even worse than it should have been. They lost by 10 coming into the All-Star break, so that's even more deflated. But this guy here, Sonny Gray, he's 63% owned. He was named the All-Star game at 63% owned. That's blasphemous to me. He's a guy that when you look back to last year, he was terrible. He's a fastball pitcher. The Yankees don't allow you to throw fastballs. So people, I think, are still thinking about that. When we look at Sonny's stats, he's got a 3.59 ERA, a 3.46 FIP, expected FIP, with a 3.31 FIP. That's number 12 in the league right now. He's only 5-5, but again, me being bullish on the Reds in the second half of the year, this guy's throwing gas, and he's a dude that I want on my team.
I was going to say, and this is the second former Yankee that you wanted on your roster as well. I think there are a lot of Yankee fans out there that aren't exactly as bullish on Sonny Gray as you might be. But for every guy that is good, there's always guys that are trending up. There's always guys that are trending down, guys that you want to stay away from. And amazingly, you've got an all-star that you want to sell high on right now. Who's the cold guy that you don't want on your team anymore?
Absolutely. Jorge Polanco, I want to sell high. He's a starter for the AL at the shortstop, and he's had a hell of a year, and that's amazing. He's hitting at 312 batting average coming into the year, into the All-Star break with 13 home runs. But when we look at his stats since June, he's only hitting 272 with 4 home runs. And that's specifically when we look at his BABIP, or batting average with balls in play. During that hot streak, that was at 338. That's dropped down to 295. What does that mean? Essentially, when you're around 300, means that you're performing at what you should be performing at. So at 338, he was overperforming. Now he's hitting where he should be hitting at, around that 270, 4 home runs. Still good, but not all-star game starter good. So I think if you can be a kind of a savvy salesman here, use that all-star game angle, you should be able to get more value for him.
Maybe we could make a trade here. Jorge Polanco for Lourdes Gurriel Jr.
I would love to see that.
I think there are a lot of people that would really enjoy that.
Absolutely.
See, and that's one of the things that you have to appreciate when you take a deeper dive into the analytics and look a little bit beyond those first level stats that we've recognized in baseball for so many years. You take a closer look at the analytics and you see some holes. You see some possibilities to move players. And that's why we take a dive into those numbers.
Absolutely. We couldn't have said it better.
All right. Well, I tell you what. Those are the hot and cold guys, but make sure you check our suggestions for streamers as well. For Jeff Sheesby, I'm Steve Overmyer. Take care.